What if everything you thought was love turned out to be about money? Imagine watching a family on your television for more than a decade, believing you were witnessing a story of faith, sacrifice, and commitment, only to learn that the very foundation of that family might have been built on financial games. That's the question, shaking the sister wives world today. And it's not just gossip, it's written right there in leaked court documents. These documents, now out, contain words no fan was expecting. A judge called Robyn Brown's 12-year marriage to Kody Brown nothing short of a financial con. Yes, you read that correctly. Not a miscommunication. Not merely favoritism. A con. And the instant those words appeared on the page, the whole Brown family saga, the one we believed we knew, started coming apart before our very eyes. To many of us, this isn't entertainment. It's personal. Viewers spent years watching Kody and his wives struggle, dream, and attempt to keep their plural family intact. But now, this bombshell leaves us questioning, was love ever the real story, or was money and control always the story all along? Let's go back to 2010, when the world met the Browns for the first time. Kody had 3 wives, then Meri, Janelle, and Christine. Meet Robyn, a fresh-faced young new wife, who brought a sense of excitement and energy to the family. Kody was clearly smitten with her, and though the other wives attempted to embrace her, things started cracking almost at once. But it was 2014 that saw the proverbial straw break. That was when Kody so dramatically decided to legally divorce his first wife of over 20 years, Meri, in order to be able to legally marry Robyn. The line during that time had been that this would permit Kody to adopt Robyn's 3 children from her first marriage and give them his surname. It seemed honorable, even heroic, a father coming forward to safeguard children in need. But the court filings now indicate that this legal maneuver did more than establish a new family tie. It could have transferred wealth, ownership, and long-term security directly to Robyn's control. And when you view the family's history in that light, things begin to look rather different. Consider this: if one signature on a piece of paper was enough to shift the equation of love, loyalty, and money in a family, what would it do to everyone else? The judge's words describing the marriage as a financial con bitten deep. It wasn't just a word, it was an accusation that the marriage was for a secret purpose. And here's why it matters: by becoming the legal wife, Robyn attained certain entitlements the other wives did not. She became the one with legal rights regarding inheritance, property, and decision-making. In the years that followed, viewers could see that Robyn's home appeared to be getting more financial assistance, better houses, and a greater share of Kody's time. While Janelle and Christine were contenting themselves with tiny living quarters and tight budgets, Robyn and her children seemed to be doing all right. The series frequently portrayed this as Kody's favoritism, but these papers suggest that perhaps the favoritism was embedded in the legal terms of their union. And here's the question nobody can dispel. If the judge noticed enough to refer to it as a con, does that? This news isn't just personal for Robyn and Kody, it upends the narrative for all of us. Christine, who infamously left in 2021, has been vocal about feeling unwanted and unsupported. Janelle, who departed shortly after, pointed to money as one of her deal breakers. Even Meri, the wife who forfeited her legal status for Robyn, had taken all these years to receive nothing in return. And now, with this court jargon out in the open, their rulings make even more sense. They weren't merely dealing with neglect of an emotional kind. They might have been caught up in a system that was certain. Here's the big question for all of us who've been watching. If the core of this family was a money plan, and not love, then what does that reveal about all that we watched on our screens for 14 years? One of the largest chunks of this puzzle is the Coyote Pass land. Bought in Flagstaff, Arizona, this land was meant to be the Browns' forever home. Both wives were to get a piece of land, and Kody envisioned everyone living compactly together in harmony. But years went by, and nothing was constructed. Fights ensued, and the land became a reminder of vows not kept. Flash forward to 2025, when the property was finally sold to an investor for $1.5 million. Christine had already relinquished her share years before for a mere $10, a symbolic gesture of release. The other wives did not fight over their shares, however, but Robyn and Kody did end up claiming a mansion for themselves. Now, with the financial con stigma overshadowing Robyn's marriage, that sale not only doesn't seem so much like a broken dream, but possibly more like the end of an expertly orchestrated game. Did Robyn and Kody always remain in control, with the other wives fighting for morsels? And here's where the conflict strikes hardest. If this was an economic scam, then who was truly the victim? Was it the wives who lost decades of their lives, or was it the fans who bought into the illusion of one big happy family? Underscore 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 underscore. This initial revelation, the judge's decision, shakes not only the Brown family, it shakes the audience as well. For over a decade, we watched a tale of love, faith, and the agony of plural marriage. But what we might have been observing all along was the gradual unraveling of a financial arrangement constructed to serve one household above all others. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. Because once a judge invokes the term con, you must wonder what else is hidden below the surface. What other tales are untold, and how much of what we witnessed was actual love versus legal documents and financial game playing. Imagine this. You've been married for decades, you've raised a family, dedicated your prime years, and believed in the vow that you belong to something bigger than yourself, a forever family. And then, suddenly one day your husband sits you down and says that he needs to divorce you. Not because the love has evaporated, not because he's abandoning you, but because he wants to marry someone else. How would you react? That is precisely what occurred within the Brown family. In 2014, Kody Brown took the life-altering step of divorcing his first wife, Meri, in order to be able to lawfully marry his fourth wife, Robyn. The headline at the time was shrouded in lofty ideals. This was all about safeguarding Robyn's children from her former marriage. By marrying Robyn, Kody would be able to adopt those children and provide them with the Brown surname, a sense of home and stability. It was like an act of sacrifice and love. But now that leaked court documents paint this marriage as a money scheme, everything seems different. Let's discuss what actually transpired the day Kody signed those divorce papers with Meri. When Kody cut off his lawful marriage to his wife of more than 20 years, he destroyed a union that afforded Meri some rights, property rights, inheritance rights, and rights to make lawful decisions within the family. When Robyn became the legally wedded wife, those rights changed. She had the legal position no other of the wives could now occupy. For Christine, Janelle, and Meri, this meant that their position in the family seemed suddenly more tenuous. In theory, they were spiritual wives, having no legal status. For Robyn, it meant power and security, dominion that extended far past romance. And here is where the court papers are significant. They indicate this was not merely about adoption. It was about creating the family's finances and legal structure to favor one household. If that holds true, then the divorce was not merely a breakup for Meri. It was the start of a financial imbalance that would resonate with the family for years. Ask yourself this: if love was really the reason, why didn't Kody find another way? Why was it necessary to strip Meri of her legal place in the family? For Meri, the emotional costs were dire. She was Kody's first wife, the one who established the family with him. Being asked to relinquish her legal rights wasn't a matter of law. It was a blow to her heart. We saw her smile, nod, and agree on TV that it was for the children. Behind the scenes, this scene sowed seeds of pain that would sprout for years to come. It is no surprise that in the subsequent seasons, Meri appeared more and more alone. Her relationship with Kody grew cold. She lost closeness with the other wives, and she couldn't find her footing in the family she helped create. In retrospect now, it seems almost merciless. She gave up her marriage so that Robyn could have one, and in return she found herself legally helpless. When Robyn became Kody's legal wife, her household gained a greater status. She and her children enjoyed the law's protection. They also enjoyed Kody's single-minded devotion in a manner the others did not. Viewers started observing that Robyn's house was bigger. She appeared to have more resources, and Kody spent more time with her than he did with his other wives. At first, people attributed this to favoritism. But when you look at the court's characterization of the marriage as a financial scam, it starts to appear as favoritism, supported by paperwork. Robyn's home wasn't merely emotionally favored, it was financially and legally engineered to thrive. Here's the hard question. If you were one of the other wives, would you remain in a marriage where the rules were structured so you could only be at the bottom? For Janelle and Christine, this imbalance finally became too strong. Christine departed in 2021, attributing it to a lack of love and attention from Kody. But there was always money lurking in the background. She acknowledged that she felt her kids were not nurtured as much as Robyn's were. Janelle soon followed, tired of financial fights and the constant bickering over land at Coyote Pass. Both of them realized what so many watched realize. The vision of one huge equitable family had dissolved. And with the leaked court documents now in front of them, their choices to quit appear not only emotional but rational. Who would remain in a union where the cards were loaded against them? The judge's decision is important because it gives voice to what wives and fans always suspected. By declaring Robyn's marriage a money scam, the court in essence stated that what appeared to be love was more of a financial agreement. It's a tough finding, but it makes everything else make sense. The favoritism, the money fights, the empty promises. For viewers who've been watching the Browns for over a decade, this verdict is not only courtroom drama, it's a discovery that rewrites the history of the family. It makes us question every scene, every argument, every tear that we witnessed on television. And this is the kicker. If the court is correct, then Robyn's marriage wasn't only the fourth installment in Kody's saga. It was the installment that closed out the entire book. The marriage that shook everything up wasn't so much about two individuals falling in love. It was about paper, property, and control. It took Meri out of the family lineup. It rearranged Christine and Janelle's lives. And it put Robyn and her kids at the forefront of the Brown dynasty. Now reflecting back on it, that 2014 wedding isn't a new beginning. It's the endgame. A time when love was overpowered by courtroom maneuvers, and where a faith-built family with trust began to crumble from the pressure of finances. And now, as the verdict comes ringing from the judge's decision, the fans are left wondering, was this even a matter of forever love? Or was it all about gaining fiscal mastery? Imagine devoting your heart, your loyalty, and the prime years of your life to a man who vowed you forever. You build dreams with him side by side, raise children with him, and weather storms for the sake of faith and family. And you discover one day, you've been living in the shadow of the strength of another woman the entire time. That's the painful reality Christine, Janelle, and even Meri experienced in the Brown household. When Kody officially wed Robyn in 2014, the dynamic started changing. Initially, the other wives attempted to grin and bear it, reassuring themselves that it was for the greater good. Behind closed doors, though, the inequality became increasingly burdensome, and one by one, at last, they took the most courageous decision possible, leaving the man who had led them to share him. Christine departed first, and the anecdote resonated with viewers everywhere. Christine had for years felt unappreciated. She confessed on camera that she felt like the basement wife, the one Kody neglected, the one who received the leftovers of his attention after he had invested so much in Robyn's home. The last straw was when she realized her kids weren't being put first. Kody openly preferred quality time with Robyn's children, and Christine's kids were left out and not loved. In a memorable moment, Christine sobbingly said, "I don't want to be in a marriage where my kids aren't important." Her 2021 exit wasn't an abandonment of Kody, but an act of bravery. She opted for her own happiness and the welfare of her children over a system that no longer benefited her. And viewers cheered for her, not as a quitter but as a woman taking back what was rightfully hers. Here's the question. If you watched your children suffer due to a marriage, would you give up your family dream, or would you leave like Christine? Janelle's experience was different, but no less compelling. Practical, consistent, and often the mediator, Janelle attempted to persevere. But money became her breaking point. For years, Janelle had invested in the Coyote Pass dream, land Kody had promised would someday be home to each wife. She had put her money and energy into that dream. But when it was time to construct, nothing was done. Instead, more and more of Kody's resources appeared to flow into Robyn's home. Janelle fought with Kody about money, about loyalty, and about his refusal to make the same kind of investment in her children. At one time, their fights became so intense that viewers witnessed Janelle, a woman who was known for being mild-mannered, standing face to face with Kody, insisting on respect. By 2022, she had also stormed off. And in her situation, it wasn't about feelings, it was about equity. She was done subsidizing a dream that only seemed to enrich one wife. Consider this: would you continue working, saving and making sacrifices if all the benefits accrued to someone else's family? Or would you at last bang the door shut like Janelle? Then, there was Meri. Her journey was the longest and perhaps the saddest. She had already given up her legal status as Kody's wife, and after that, she seemed to fade further and further from his life. Fans watched as Meri held on, often alone, still hoping for reconciliation, still clinging to the dream she had started with Kody decades earlier. But repeatedly Kody brushed her aside. In one heartbreaking moment, he acknowledged that he no longer perceived any possibility of an actual marriage with Meri. It was degrading, saddening, and definitive. In early 2023, Meri made a formal declaration that she was separating from Kody. Her goodbye was not as loud as Christine's or Janelle's but was just as effective. After all the waiting and pain, she finally claimed what the world had already witnessed. Kody no longer had his heart with her. When Christine left, fans thought the family could recover. When Janelle left, they wondered if the foundation could hold. But when Meri left, the dream of sister wives, the vision of one united polygamous family was shattered. What had seemed like a daring experiment in contemporary polygamy had devolved into a cautionary tale. And at the heart of it all was giving the legal wife status to Robyn, granting her authority the others did not possess. The leaked court papers now verify what viewers always suspected. This was not a show about love. It was about control, property, and finance. And the surprise what if leaving didn't mean the end of the wives' tale, but rather the start of their liberty. Christine is happy once more. She remarried in 2023, and frequently expresses her joy to the fans, showing that there is love and laughter to be found after polygamy. Janelle has embraced her independence, and has created a life that is all about her children and her own achievement. Even Meri, after all these years of being hidden in the wings, has come into her own as a single woman, and has started forging a new way. Collectively, these women embody strength. They remind fans, particularly women who gave too much up, never too late to choose yourself, to begin anew, and to be happy with someone else beyond a failed marriage. The wives who walked away didn't just end their marriages, they ended a chapter of reality TV history. Their choices pulled back the curtain on polygamy, on Kody's leadership, and on the cost of living in someone else's shadow. Christine's courage, Janelle's demand for fairness, and Meri's quiet strength have all rewritten the narrative. They're no longer just sister wives. They're women who prove that walking away isn't failure, it's freedom. And for audiences, their stories provide a strong reminder. Sometimes the most courageous act of love is the love you finally give yourself. Picture yourself in a courtroom, your whole family's life exposed, every decision you've made picked apart, by lawyers and a judge, but by millions of spectators on the outside. You assumed your family's problems were personal, but now suddenly the law itself is opining. And then comes that instant. The judge utters words so biting, so surprising, that they flip everything. For Kody Brown and the sister wives' household, that day arrived when the judge ruled on their broken marriages, their financial disagreements, and the specter of polygamy. What was previously mere reality TV chaos now had the power of judicial decision behind it. Viewers who believed they'd witnessed it all were left stunned, devastated, and wondering about everything they thought they knew about the Browns. When Christine, Janelle, and Meri walked out, the legal situation didn't vanish. Houses, companies, and financial resources remained enmeshed between the family. And since Kody had given so much legal authority over to Robyn through their marriage in 2014, the courts were where the fight took place. In papers which subsequently leaked into the public, the fans discovered that the judge did not hesitate to highlight the imbalance. The court wondered why Kody's legal marriage to Robyn had essentially taken away financial safeguards for the other wives. It was not merely a family conflict. There was an issue of fairness and even legality involved. Consider this. What if a judge reviewed your marriage and called out all that you'd been in denial about for years? Would you stand up for it? Or would you collapse at the truth? Perhaps the most surprising moment was when the judge touched on favoritism. For years, viewers had argued over whether Kody actually showed Robyn more love, more attention, and more money than the other wives. On the show, Kody frequently denied it, claiming he treated them all equally. But in court, a judge was quoted as observing the fair disparity in financial and legal advantage between Robyn and the other wives. Suddenly, what viewers had long assumed wasn't mere speculation. It was set out in black and white. For Christine, Janelle, and Meri, it was vindicating and painful. Vindicating because someone in power finally legitimized their struggles. Painful because it verified what they had most feared. The system was rigged against them from the beginning. Here's the question for you. If a judge validated your worst fears that your marriage was unequal from the very beginning, would it break you? Or would it finally free you? Another aspect of the hearing dealt with Coyote Pass, the land that had been a dream and a bane. Kody promised each wife a home there for years, but as the court papers showed, the land remained underdeveloped, encumbered in debt, and now embroiled in disagreements regarding ownership. The judge questioned whether the land could ever realistically be divided, or if it should be sold altogether. This wasn't just a financial issue, it was symbolic. Coyote Pass had been marketed as the Browns' forever dream, the place that would unite them. Now, under the judge's scrutiny, it was exposed as nothing more than an empty promise. The news hurt fans as much as the wives. Seeing the dream perish in court made the disintegration of the family all the more permanent. Think about investing your life savings into a dream house, only to have a judge inform you that it never might. Would you continue to fight for it, or walk away for good? Perhaps the most charged aspect of the judge's remarks involved the children. Christine and Janelle had gone on record about how their children had been made to feel excluded, overlooked, or even abandoned by Kody. The judge didn't brush it aside. Instead, there were stern words regarding the duty of a father, words that made Kody visibly fidgety in court. According to reports, fans who had long scorned Kody's parenting decisions felt vindicated. The judge's words were what many viewers had screamed at the television for years. Kids shouldn't ever find themselves in the middle of broken promises and favoritism. And here's the rub, when a judge speaks the truth that fans have been screaming for years, does it alter the narrative, or does it only serve to reinforce that the truth can't remain hidden forever? To the wives who had walked out, the judge's words were closure and warning. Closure because they had been vindicated by an outsider for feeling neglected and betrayed. Warning because it demonstrated how risky it had been to place everything in Kody's hands. For the legal wife Robyn, judgment fell. Although she had not committed a crime by marrying Kody, perceiving that she was gaining at the other's expense only increased controversy about her role. Viewers perceived her not only as Kody's favorite, but also as the wife who had legal authority the others never had a fighting chance against. And as for Kody himself, the judge's words were crushing. His carefully constructed reputation as a dominant family leader was destroyed. No longer was this about reality TV manipulation or family conflict. The court itself had ruled, and the findings weren't compliment. Judges' words are not opinion, they're judgments supported by the law. For the Sister Wives clan, those words were a wake-up call. They took away the excuses, the lies, and the scripted TV shows. They exposed a family shattered not merely by love lost, but by power inequalities, favoritism, and broken vows. To fans, the judge's words were unforgettable. They shook the ground of what Sister Wives had stood for longer than a decade. And they left one nagging question. If a judge could spot the cracks so obviously, why couldn't Kody spot them earlier when it was not too late? What is the reality when the cameras quit rolling, the court wars die down, and finally the dust settles? Does a family as fractured as the Browns ever heal, or do the fissures just deepen? Can you picture belonging to a family in which once you shared forever dreams, and now you're hardly even talking? Can you picture seeing your father on the national television news, picking another wife over your mother? Can you picture the promises of home, of being a life united, becoming mere court orders and shattered dreams? This is the reality for the Brown family today, and the question everyone wants to have answered is simple, yet poignant. What does the future hold for Kody Brown, his wives, and his children? The judge's words weren't painful only at the time, they leave scars that will inform the Browns' future for years to come. Christine, having already moved on, doubled down on forging her new life. She's flourishing, demonstrating fans what freedom means, and she's committed to safeguarding her children from the madhouse of Kody's life. Janelle, who worked so hard to remain impartial earlier, has entered into her own independence as well. She's concentrating on her children, her financial security, and her own sense of peace. For her, the future is survival and rebuilding, not dwelling on what she lost. Meri, legally separated from Kody for decades, still had emotional baggage. Now, after the judge indicated how unbalanced things were, she's finally gaining the strength to stand in her truth and leave him completely. Her bed and breakfast, traveling, and her own endeavors are all about her taking back her identity. And then there's Robyn, the remaining wife, the one with the legal marriage. But rather than appearing like the winner, she seems to be the one who stands alone. Even fans who once rooted for her now wonder if the dream she believed in was worth it. Here's the question: when a family breaks apart on television, can it ever fully mend behind closed doors, or will the glare continue to rip open old wounds? The largest issue going forward isn't about the wives, it's about the kids. With 18 children, the Brown clan's legacy is enormous, but the estrangement between parents threatens to leave permanent scars on the siblings. Some of the children, particularly Christine and Janelle's, openly condemned Kody, claiming that they felt unloved or abandoned. Others, specifically Robyn's children, are still close to him. The question now is whether these siblings will be solidified as a group by the experiences they have shared or torn apart by the suffering of favoritism. They also want to know, will the children follow the plural marriage life? To date, most of them apparently shun it, witnessing firsthand the heartache it brought. Perhaps future generations will find the Browns constructing very different lives, one shaped by autonomy rather than polygamy. Ponder this: if you had seen your parents battle on television and in court throughout your childhood, would you continue their pattern, or would you do everything in your power to stop the cycle? For Kody and Robyn, the future is the most uncertain of all. Without Janelle, Christine, and Meri, the concept of sister wives ceases to exist. It's simply a marriage like any other, but tainted by scandal, resentment, and financial strain. Coyote Pass continues to be a dark cloud. If it is sold, the last of Kody's dream could be lost. If they manage to hold on somehow, the cost may become too much to bear. Either situation, something that was sold as a sign of coming together, could end up being the family's greatest regret. Kody's public image has also been damaged beyond recognition. Once depicted as a quirky but loving father attempting to navigate an odd lifestyle, he's now perceived by many viewers as controlling, selfish, and oblivious to the suffering of his wives and children. That reputation may be impossible to restore. Here's the twist: when the dream falls apart and one wife is all that's left, is it truly a triumph, or is it the loneliest of endings? TLC has its own issue. Sister Wives was founded on the conflict and drama of plural marriage, and with Robyn being the only one remaining, where can the show go? Some assume that the show might shift its focus to the children, how they establish their own futures. Others assume the show will simply end, its history made by the failure of the Browns instead of their cohesion. Whatever does occur, one is sure of this: there are still fans watching. The courtroom fights, the splits, and the judge's stern reprimand have only made the public more interested. Even if the family removes themselves from TV, the news won't let up. Consider it: is the demise of Sister Wives the demise of the Browns, or merely the opening chapter of a story no one expected? The Browns' future is based on one thing: whether they are able to heal. Christine has already begun doing so by establishing boundaries and deciding to be happy. Janelle did the same by not letting herself be bound by Kody's choices. Meri is asserting her independence at last after years of emotional abandonment. But it could take decades for the children to heal. Some might be able to forgive, but others will be left with the wounds forever. And as for Robyn and Kody, their marriage might endure, but it will forever be shadowed by the reality that it was achieved through the destruction of 3 fractured relationships and a broken family. So what awaits the Brown family in the future? It's a tale that continues to be penned. The judge's words, the court wars, and the breakups have all helped create the present. But what they choose to do now, whether to heal, forgive, or persevere, will determine their legacy. And perhaps that's the actual lesson of Sister Wives. It's not merely a reality television show about polygamy. It's a warning story about vows, power, and the price of living fantasies over individuals. The future may not be everything the Browns envision, but it can still be brighter if they opt for healing over hurt.